Live, baby, live. What do you say, Cubs fans? Mick Gillespie here with some breaking news, and I thought, hey, this is a great day to jump on and talk about what's happening right now with the Cubs, and that is the word from Jeff Passan is Cody Bellinger has thrown everyone a curveball, and he is coming back to the Cubs. What does that mean to the Cubs? What does that mean to the roster? Why did he come back? We're going to talk about that right here on the Cubs baseball channel. So thanks for jumping on and getting the comments section. Like, subscribe, thumbs up, all the things that we Cubs fans do. So let's talk some Cubs baseball. Go Cubs. Let's get the show started. All right, let's talk some Cubs baseball on this Saturday. I'm Mick Gillespie at Broadcaster Mick on the socials, and I appreciate all of you guys for being here on the Cubs baseball channel on this really surprisingly breaking news Saturday. And surprisingly because my sense was, and everyone's sense was that covers the Cubs, that Cody Bellinger, Scott Boras, his agent, were going to basically opt out of his contract, become a free agent, and go somewhere else and try to cash in on the fact that it's a weak outfield market right now in Major League Baseball, right? And so we were kind of preparing for that. And then today, no, he's actually staying, according to Jeff Passan. And when Passan says something, you can go ahead and put your money down on it. One of the best in the game, right? One of the best in the business. And so I'm believing that. And I'm going to tell you guys why. And we'll kind of get into that on here as well. What does it mean to the Cubs? And is this a good thing or a bad thing? Well, let's just say this right off the bat. Bellinger, 130 games. You remember he had the cracked ribs. He ran into the wall last year trying to make a catch, the bricks. And was out for some time. Felt like when he came back, it took a long time for him to be a difference-making player again. And, when the season mattered, he wasn't that good. And then at the end of the year, when, all the teams kind of were like, hey, we're out of it. It's going to be backups and, guys, it wasn't the same as, you know what I mean? At the end of the season, teams are like, we're just going to put these guys in and give them experience. It isn't as much about winning. The Cubs won some games, and they had a very, the 83 and 79 record, which is kind of what they are right now, right? So my point on this is that you're paying Cody Bellinger to be your star player, and when the last two seasons were on the line, you didn't make it, and you got to put some of that on him. Now, with that said, 18 home runs and 78 runs batted in 130 games it's not bad. It's actually good, but it's not MVP. It's not comeback player of the year form. And on top of that, I didn't feel like I did the year before, where he was such a difference maker with hits and driving in runs in big spots. I just felt like, he put up some numbers, but it was too little, too late. Now, I thought that he was going to leave. And then that was kind of like, hey, there's some free agents that I think the Cubs would be interested in, and that money would certainly help in that area. But that's not going to be the case. He's going to take the $27.5 million. And I mean, who would, right? And it's $27.5 million. Plus, you get to play for the Cubs, and this will be his third year with the Cubs, and we love him. I mean, he's a fan favorite. But the winning part of it, and you start to look at the roster and the money available, the Cubs, they're going to have to do a lot better than where they are right now to beat the Dodgers, to beat the Yankees, to beat the Mets. So, that comes down to adding players. It's not just spending money. It's spending money on the right guys, like the Dodgers. You look at that roster, and they got Freddie Freeman, and they got Mookie Betts, and they got Ohtani. So they spent a ton of money, but they've also spent it on guys that are difference makers. And they haven't won the World Series every year, but they've won, like 2 of the last 6 or 2 of the last 5. And they're in the playoffs every year, and they're dominating the division every year. So they're in the mix every year. And that's how you do this. You just, like that was kind of the Theo Epstein way of doing things. You just keep on taking shots, and you hope that you score. And certainly the Cubs aren't taking shots anymore because they don't make the playoffs anymore. So what does this mean? Well, it means that Bellinger's back. And it also means this. Let's be honest. There wasn't a market out there for him, because if he thought that he was going to be able to go out and do better, he would have gone out and done better. That's just the way that the business works. Nobody's doing anyone favors anymore. So this is like, hey, you know what? I'm coming back because I really like those fans. No, it's that your agent went out and looked, and there just wasn't a team willing to give you $27.5 million. And then you got an option to get out next year, right? So you can do the same thing next year. Maybe you're healthy. Maybe you put up a better season in numbers, and maybe teams are willing to pay you the contract that you think you deserve and not the one that you have right now. Do I think that he likes Cubs fans? Oh, yeah. Look, that's not saying he doesn't. I mean, I'm sure he loves Cubs fans. We love him, but there's no, people don't do favors. There's no Andre Dawson's coming in and leaving contracts that are unsigned. I mean, he's got the most scrupulous agent in sports history, and that guy's all about making money. And if they thought that there was a better deal than $27.5 million, they would have taken it. So he's back. Now, the problem that the Cubs have, in my mind, is that there's no real position for this guy. You got Pete Crow Armstrong, who's a better center fielder. You got Ian Happ, that's a Gold Glove left fielder. And then you got Seiya Suzuki in right. So maybe you put, you could do first base. Well, you got Michael Busch at first base. So are you long-term with Busch? Both of them are left-handed hitters. Is Bellinger to me and Busch are probably defensively close to the same. I mean, honestly, I like Bellinger a little bit better if you really want to do the math, when he was playing a lot of first base 2 years ago. But Busch is younger. Busch has a huge upside. We saw that last year. He was really starting to kind of come into his own. And also he's a lot more affordable. So that leaves the DH spot, which we know Craig Counsell likes to use the DH spot as kind of a day off for players. So now you have there's a log jam in the outfield. And then you say, well, what about Mike Tauchman? Yeah, well, what about Owen Casey? Are you going to make him stay in AAA for another year? We saw Kevin Alcantara get to the big leagues last year. He's another one of their top prospects. He came over from the Yankees in the Rizzo deal. You're going to keep him in the minor leagues for another year, so and then you got all these guys signed, position player wise. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Cubs do. And I feel like they're going to have to make trades. And that either means players that are on the big league roster, or they're going to have to trade guys out of the minor leagues. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens when they manage the 40-man roster coming up, which is due. And then you're going to lose some talent in that, because teams are going to be watching and going, hey, the Cubs have all these guys that are prospects. And, there's other players in the organization that are good that they're not going to be able to protect. So that'll be interesting as well. I think that's an issue that good organizations have. That's not a shot at the Cubs. I mean, when you have a lot of talent, you can't keep them all in the 40-man. So you just saw him take Caleb Knight off the 40-man. He was a catcher who is probably going to be a really good coach one day. And, they're going to have to make some more moves in that area. But I look at Bellinger and I'm going, what do you do? Ian Happ would be a guy that if it was up to me, I would trade if I could get the right package back for him, because then you could put Bellinger in left, and then maybe you move Seiya Suzuki to the DH, and then you would maybe platoon kind of the Bellinger and Suzuki and Owen Casey in the outfield, with Pete Crow Armstrong manning center field, and then Bellinger could play a little bit of center field. But, mostly I'd have PCA out there, thinking that he's going to be able to take a step forward this year. But that's getting rid of Happ. He has a no trade clause. So, what do you do? Is Seiya Suzuki a guy that you would move? We find out that he's not that reliable defensively, but he can hit. He's had some injury issues. And so this is why it gets so interesting right now with Bellinger opting in. I thought for sure he was going to be out. And I thought, look, the Phillies, the Pirates, maybe a surprise team could come in there and say, hey, we feel like this guy could make a big difference. But obviously the market wasn't there. And so he's coming back. Now, this is my biggest concern about Bellinger coming back. And I'm going to tell you why it's going to be great. It'll help the Cubs that he's coming back. But my biggest concern is this right here, the free agent market. I'm looking at this roster, and on this roster, I see players that are not good enough to get there with the way that this team's currently constructed. And I know that there's some talent in the minor leagues. There's a lot of talent in the minor leagues, but also I'm seeing that the step going from AAA to the big leagues, because minor league baseball is so watered down right now, and it's become such a joke compared to where it was 10 or 15 years ago. The level of competition has diminished so much that these guys are getting to the big leagues and they're getting blown away. It's taking them a lot more time, not all of the players, but a lot of the players, and especially the position players in this system, to go from being stars in the minor leagues to being, stars or even contributors in the big leagues. And I think that's one of the reasons David Ross got fired. If the players would have came up and been more ready to jump in and get the job done, then maybe that team would have made the playoffs, right? So the reason I'm saying that is that we don't know how long it's going to take Owen Casey to be a good player. But I'm telling you, just like I told you with Pete Crow Armstrong, he's going to be good. And this guy's more consistent, and he's got a higher ceiling to me than Pete Crow Armstrong. But he's got to play in the big leagues to get there. Okay. So you already had him at AAA for a year. Maybe he's going to come back and do that again. You had Kevin Alcantara, what about Alexander Canario? He was in the big leagues last year. What's going to happen with him? He's a guy that's ready to go. So they're going to have to do something, but you don't know. Is Matt Shaw going to come to the big leagues and James Trianto is going to come to the big leagues and be ready to go day one and contribute? Or is it going to take those guys time to go from where they're at now and then contribute and be players on a big league team and really contribute? So that's kind of where we're at right now, which is why I feel like the free agent market and going after someone that we know is a game changer, like a Juan Soto, or on the pitching side, a Corbin Burns, or a Pete Alonso, or Vlad Guerrero Jr., which to me, Vlad Guerrero Jr.'s or Juan Soto would be the two biggest targets I would go after to help a lineup that just couldn't do anything last year. In 15 games, they got shut out, one of the worst in baseball in that category. How many other games were they? Maybe they score a couple runs, but were really not much of an offensive threat. You feel like they've got some pieces, but it doesn't feel like a lineup that when you're facing the best in baseball is really that scary, but you put a Juan Soto in there, or you put a Vlad Guerrero Jr. in there, and then all of a sudden it's going to make everyone in that lineup better. So does that mean the Cubs don't have money? No, but $27.5 million with the money that they are getting back, if they decide that they're not going to keep Drew Smiley, and if they, that Kyle Hendricks is out, and that was $16.5 million. And, how willing are you to, to basically say, hey, we're going all in on the spend. And if I was the Cubs, I'd go all in right now, because I've said this on other videos. Forget about just the winning aspect of it. The White Sox are as weak as they've ever been. And it's so bad that people got shot at their ballpark. They want a new stadium, which their stadium isn't even paid for. And now they're trying to shop the team to people in Nashville. So if I'm the Cubs, I'm just looking at it from a business sense going, look, if we go out there, if we're going all in right now, let's go all in. Let's win right now and make it harder on the White Sox and sweep them right on down to Nashville. And then we'll own this city, right? That's just a business sense. And are the White Sox just doing this because they're just trying to get a new stadium built? They might be, but they might not be. Teams move all the time, and it would be sad to see them leave. But from a business sense, forget about my heart feels bad. I like having two teams in Chicago. From a business sense, if you're the Cubs and you had the whole city to yourself, that means that you would have all the baseball marketing dollars, and you'd be like the Bears, and where you basically you own things instead of having to split it somewhat with the White Sox. So I'm going all in. And why I'm telling you that is that I'm paying the $700 million to get Juan Soto right now. Well, I say, well, does that money mean that you're not going to be able to do it? I don't know, but it could, that could play into it. And the other part is, where are you even going to put Juan Soto? I mean, you're in the same spot. We got a whole team of outfielders now. But I think if you add him, you figure out like how you're going to trade some other guys off and get rid of some salary. But if I'm the Cubs, I'm going all in right now, and adding some marquee pieces to me is really important, because being 83 and 79 is not good enough. It's just not. Even if you got 90 wins and you're out in the first round, it's not good enough. It's about winning championships. And nothing about this team this year told me that they were ready to win a championship. But you start going out and you add some of these pieces like the Dodgers did, and it becomes that much tougher for guys to get on the field because you have star players all over the place. Then you start to win. And not just win, but win championships, or at least contend for championships. So we'll see. Now, the good thing about having Bellinger back, there's a lot. First off, he's the best player on the team. I don't think that's hard to argue with, guys. I think he's the best player on the team. I think when he's healthy, he's a really, really dynamic guy. I know he didn't play well at Wrigley last year, but I think that he was dealing with some injuries. It seemed like it was just one of those weird weather years, to deal with a lot of wind blowing in nights and stuff. But you got to deal with that. He did it the year before. I'm not worried about him doing that again. And then the other part is, if you're Craig Counsell, it just gives you one more guy that's good. That just gives you one more guy that you put in the lineup that a team actually has to worry about. So if I'm the Cubs and I got Bellinger back, that doesn't mean that I'm out on other free agents if it's me, but it's not my money that I'm going out there and trying to spend. And I'm just telling you my philosophy on why I think that this needs to be an all-in year. And then from the front office standpoint, if I'm, Jed Hoyer and I'm his people, let me be real clear. You're right. This is how much you got left, right? If you even got that, because you haven't won, and it's a win now business. And that's not a personal attack. That's you better get it done now, or you may never be another GM again. When Jim Hendry left, I didn't think that was going to be his last GM job. And it was. You just don't know how many of these opportunities you're going to get. And the thing we learned from Theo in Boston and with the Cubs is that you go after the best of the best of the best. You go after the ultra elite talented players, and you put them in position to win and get out of the way. And that's not the team that the Cubs have right now. So they've got good players. They're consistent as in 83 and 79, and the first or second team out of the playoffs. And that's not good enough. All right. So anyway, Bellinger's back, according to Jeff Passan. Let me get in the comments section since I'm live and hang out with you guys. And it's good to see all of you. Good to see you, Becky. Go Cubs. Get rid of Dansby. Yeah. Look, this has turned out to be, or it has the potential to be, another Jason Hayward contract. And to me, if your ownership, you're kind of, you had a bad taste in your mouth from the last Brave that you signed to a long-term deal that didn't pan out. Dansby got better towards the end of the year, but his bat is just not good enough. And you could throw anybody in that spot. You could have put Nico in that spot and gotten about the same production. Maybe a little bit better defensively, Dansby. I like the leadership, but you're right. You're not getting rid of him, though. So we're stuck with him, just like Hayward. No one's going to trade for him. I don't even know if he has a no trade clause, but there's nobody in baseball that's touching that contract right now. Oh, here's my man Connor. What's up, dude? If you had to pick between Bellinger in the lineup or moving Bush to second or third, what are you making? Well, I think this is a question that a lot of you guys are talking about right now, because I think that, you heard the Cubs were talking about the polar bear, right? Pete Alonso. And was that real talk or not? Pete Alonso, to me, is a good hitter. He would be. It would definitely give the Cubs like a real power threat in the batting lineup. Of the guys that are free agents right now, I would much rather have Vlad Guerrero Jr. He's a much more consistent hitter. And I mean that, or that could be reportedly available, right? Or and also, if you make a trade, you get rid of some of the guys that you need to open up spots for anyway. Or the other one would be Juan Soto, who everybody's going to go after. So not only, just like with Ohtani, with Soto, do you have to have the money? You also have to convince him that the organization is going in the right direction. And that, to me, is what Theo Epstein did such a great job of when he convinced John Lester to come. You could feel the momentum. I don't feel momentum right now. And that's something that the Cubs got to change. They got to change that perception. So moving Bush to second or third, I mean, you could possibly move him to second. I don't know how good he is at second base. He didn't do a whole lot of anything besides first base last year. So it's hard to really tell like what that would look like. He was given the first base job and he's stuck there. You got Nico, who just came out of surgery, but I'm sure he'll be ready by the time the season comes to play second. And then you trade it for Paredes to play third. I think that could potentially be a good deal for the Cubs. I'm convinced that Paredes is going to be a lot better than he was, but good to see you, Connor. Thanks for the question. Naren, my main man, trade for Jordan Montgomery, sign another starting pitcher, and 2 right-handed hammers, and make the pitching an edge. I have a lot of faith in Jordan Montgomery. I wish we would have got him last year when he was a free agent. I hope they opt out of the Drew Smiley deal. I would love to see them go out and get somebody. I would love them to have a rotation that you looked at and said, man, it's not just, okay, here's some guys. Last year we had a decent rotation. I mean, they pitched well, but they were always hurt. It would be nice to have Steele still be in the rotation, but slide back to maybe being your third or fourth starter. With Shota in there, maybe you get a Jordan Montgomery, and then you go out and sign a Corbin Burns, and you look at the rotation and you let those guys eat, man. You say, hey, we want 7 innings out of these starters. And instead of trying to look at the bullpen games, they don't work. I mean, you can get by on them, but long term, you want starting pitching. So I agree with that. That's the one area too, Naren, where they have flexibility and the pitching, so we'll see, kind of what that looks like. And would the Cubs even potentially be interested in going after Josh Hader? He's a guy that maybe they go after that played for Craig Counsell, who I still like, by the way, Craig Counsell. But yeah, so that's kind of where we are right now. Maybe do a couple more comments. But I was shocked, man, when I saw this. Anthony sent me the breaking news, and I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Wow, But I mean, this could be if you're just using it like this, Nino, and you say, "Hey, man, we're going to add another bat to Cody Bellinger," could be a blessing to have him back. So I'm not down on having Bellinger. I just hope that this doesn't mean that they're looking at the money and going, hey, we're paying this guy $27 million. We can't get out. Look, Cubs need the Bryce Harper. Cubs need the Aaron Judge. Cubs need the Ohtani, the Freeman, the Betts. The world of this game is you got to have star talent. And the way that everything kind of transpired in this playoffs kind of shows you that you need that. I mean, even look at the Rangers last year. They had star players. They had guys that they got in the organization, and then they went out and paid for some great players, and it ended up leading them to the World Series. So that's important, and you got to have that. John says, I'm dreaming, and you're right. Maybe I am, man. But if they don't spend money on guys, on difference-making players, then we're going to be looking at the same thing next year when the end of the season comes, and we're staring at an 83-79 record, and I'll say this, Chicago dude 888, it's probably no surprise, like I said before, because the market wasn't out there for him to get a better deal. And I don't know what the market is, but to me, I just think that we got to have some more star players. The some of those lineups last year, you're looking at them, and when we're getting shut out or scoring 1 or 2 runs against the best pitching, and you're going, okay, how many 1, 2, 3 innings did we have? I mean, think about, like, not even that they went, like, months without scoring hardly, but I mean, they weren't even competitive innings. So for them to get competitive, they've got to get better hitters. And the crazy thing is that you got all these guys signed, and it's like used to be where you signed the players that were going to be difference makers. And instead, we got guys signed, and there's a lot of guys that you're going, well, I mean, eh, 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 you know, on a day, oh yeah, this guy plays, and then he'll go 2 or 3 days and not do anything. So adding star players is really going to matter. So anyway, thanks guys. This was just a quick video. I wanted to jump on live. Missed you. I'm back. I'm fired up about this time of year. It's hard when you watch this team, and at the way that the season ended was disappointing. Playing your best baseball when you're out of it isn't good enough to me. But this is the exciting time now where we're going to see what these things, how things are going to go, and and basically what the Cubs are going to do in the offseason. But get in the comments section. Give me a thumbs up if you're a Cubs fan. Thank you. Subscribe to the channel. And I will talk to you guys again soon. But great to see everyone, and have a great Saturday, and go Cubs.